Welcome to this video. I think this is the 8th one. 8th, that's it. Yeah, so today, last week's training. Little running clip, not too much. And then there's change coming in my training. I'm sorry to be that guy, but it's happening. Let's roll the intro. Okay, last week I did a lovely total of 93.88. As you can see, deload week, then 2 weeks ago 101 Ks, back down to 93. Oh, not good. As we can also see, I took a rest day over here, I took a rest day over here, and that is not normal for me, unless it is a taper, which it's not. So before I get into the topic, let's quickly look at last week's training. So we had 12K easy on Monday, 5.5K easy on Wednesday, not a lot of running, 7.7Ks on Friday easy, not a lot of running. Then we had our session on Tuesday. Let's quickly look at that session. It was a 17K session, 3Ks on, 1K off, 3Ks on, 1K off, and then I did 10 300s. I'll get back to this, so I won't close that. So on Thursday I did the easy run with strides. That was in last week's video. You know, the emo, doubting myself, being miserable with life, bad weather video, that one. The one positive about this is my heart rate's quite low. I know I was running super slow, but usually at this point my heart rate would creep at least into the 140s, and it only did once on this kilometer, which is an uphill K, so that was a positive. And then on Sunday I did a 32 kilometers run titled, well, the sun is back because it got warm. I might add a clip of my sweat after the run, how much salt I had on my face. It is the first time in my life that it's been that bad. Actually, let me put the clip here. Let's see. I think this is the saltiest I've ever sweat in my life. What the heck? Look at that. Even on my eyes. What the? That's scary. Anyway, so this run was this run over here. And in this run, I did 4 times 4K with 1K in between. I want to show you something which will lead me into this week's quick discussion, hopefully not too long. 430s, 430-ish, bit faster than 430s. Third one, 430s again, and then the last one I pushed it a bit more, closer to marathon pace. But as you can see, I wasn't running super fast, but if we look at my heart rate, as soon as I started with the faster Ks, look what happens to my heart rate. 164, 164, 161. That's not great. For this pace, that's not a good sign, okay? Then on the recovery K, I didn't really recover. Oh, that's this one here. Still in the 160s. Then it pushed up to 167. Then on the recovery K, I got it back down to 160. Then it pushed up to 170s, and it's still only it's 430s. It's not anything crazy. Then the recovery K, it was still close to 170, and then it went almost to 180. I want to run a marathon faster than this. It's not happening if this is my heart rate. What the actual issue is look at this run. 4 times 4K, broken up. And then I look at the previous week, which, if you remember, wasn't at the best run either, where I did continuous kilometers at that pace and then picked it up towards the end. But my heart rate stays in the 150s for most of those. Okay, yes, towards the end when I picked it up, it jumps to the 160s, but still, that is a massive difference. And this indicates what I've been feeling, which is that my body has been in a increasingly bad state of fatigue as of late, which is normal in marathon training. You're bound to get fatigued. But the more worrying thing is that I had a deload week literally 2 weeks before this one. And it's quite a drastic deload. 30 to 40 kilometers less. Where am I heading with this? I've decided to change my training.
What's up? So, as mentioned in the weekly roundup, I think I need to change things up a bit. Yeah, fatigue is too much and performance is actually getting worse. So, I'm going to go into a bit of a time of sub-threshold work, which just means taking down the paces a bit, but doing it more often in the week. So today, I'm gonna go for 3 times 3K, and SubT paces range from 412 to 425 a K. So I'll just go and feel, just doing a quick warm up around 3Ks, and then I'll do some drills as per usual. But yeah, legs are still screwed from the weekend. It's quite toasty, so it's warm. So I don't think heart rate will be too reliable today. So, but yeah, we'll just keep going. I just don't want to overdo it. Okay, yeah, warm up done. Did a bit of dynamic. So, like I said, 3 by 3. That's it. With regards to paces, I'll go more conservative. Okay, first 3K done. 417, 420, 417. Was nice getting into a nice slow, natural rhythm. That second K, my heart rate went back into the 150s. Okay, second rep done. It was about 417, 417, and then 413. Yeah, feeling good. So recovery is supposed to be 90 seconds, but I'm doing 2 minutes. I'm just tired of being tired. That's it. Okay, last rep done. 415, 409, and 412. There, I ended on the uphill, so that sucked. Just get some water quick, and then I'll do a 3K cool down jog. Very easy though. Anyways, feeling good, so that's positive. So that was chilled. Yeah, I think that is sustainable.
And I know some of you guys are probably thinking, this dude is so bipolar with his training. He keeps changing things up. Yes, I do. Because I'm listening to my body, and my body is screaming at me. So the previous time I changed my training a bit, it was out of fear of not preparing myself well enough. Now I'm changing my training because something's not right. Yeah, that leads me into the topic of discussion, which is actually how I am going to be changing my training. I needed to find a more sustainable training method for a everyday person like myself. I'm not a professional. I have a job. I have a almost 2-year-old son. So I am just a regular human who's trying to run a decent marathon time. I first heard about this method that I'm going to be attempting in one of Fodrunner's videos, the Norwegian singles method. Now this was popularized by a guy called James Copeland. Online he's known as Sir Pock. To cut a long story short, he used to be a cyclist, and in cycling there's this thing called sweet spot training, which is something that the cycling community, because they're a bit more nerdy, because you can be, because there's a lot more data with cycling, like power is way more accurate and so on. They figured out that there is a certain point of training where if you train at that intensity, you can do a lot more of it, which benefits your fitness the most. So he came from that background, and then he moved into running, and he initially ran like most training programs would have you run, which is have hard days and easy days, in a very polarized manner. So the hard days were very hard and the easy days were somewhat easy, arguably not easy enough. And he improved, but he started plateauing at around 19 minutes on the 5K. And then he thought back to when he was cycling about the sweet spot training. He looked at what one of the Ingebrigtsen brothers did. I'm sure you guys know the Ingebrigtsens if you're a runner. And he saw that his training was different to his younger brothers. They are famously known for doing all the double threshold stuff, but this one wasn't doing double threshold, he was doing single threshold sessions. Yeah, using that info as well as what he knew from cycling, he figured out which would be the optimal paces to train at without accumulating too much fatigue. And basically what it came down to is that if you train at a pace which is slightly slower than threshold pace, so it's called sub-threshold paces, if you train at that, the amount of fatigue you accumulate is less, so much so less that you can train in this state more often in the week. So instead of just having 2 sessions a week, using this method, he could do 3 sessions a week on each alternating day. So a general training week would look as follows. You'd have an easy day, a sub-threshold day, an easy day, sub-threshold day, easy day, sub-threshold day, and then a long run, which is also at an easy pace. Using this method over, I think it was like 1.5 to 2 years, he brought his 5K time from a 19 minute down to 15:01, which is insane. What's even more insane is that he then took this method, adapted it a little bit for the marathon, and he this year ran the London Marathon in 2 hours 24 as his first ever marathon. So that is wild. I'm not going to go into more details about the method. I think all you need to get out of it is training slightly slower so that you can recover better, so that you can do it more often, gaining you the most amount of fitness. Okay, I will link this thread here, which is a Reddit thread. This is not him, but it's a guy that followed Sir Poc's methods quite closely and has also used that to run a 2:44. And yeah, just in this Reddit post, you can go to the original Let's Run thread where the Sir Poc guy made this method more popular, and there's this big Strava group about this method now, which you can join. You can go down this rabbit hole if you want to. I've already done that. It is supposed to be a training method pretty much for your everyday person like us. In other words, not elite runners or pro athletes. Yeah, and that sounds like something that I need. Now, just to set a few things straight about this fatigue that I'm talking about personally for me. I'm not referring to my legs being sore or hurting at the end of a long run, okay? That is normal if you're training. What I'm speaking of specifically, and which is more worrying to me, is the constant mental and just physical fatigue. I'm tired all the time. So much so that for the first time in, I think, about maybe half a year, maybe even longer, I've not wanted to go for certain runs, which is not like me. I love running. I love going out, especially for the hard sessions. I used to love going out the door to try and push myself. But for the first time in I don't know how long, I've actually been demotivated and I haven't been wanting to go running. I need to change something. So I'm hoping that this method will get me there, get me motivated again. It does mean that maybe my sub 3 plans are derailed a bit. I don't know. I honestly don't know how I'll react to this. What I can say is that this week I've done 2 of these. Oh, I missed it. I took another day off on Monday because I was again so fatigued. So I've gone straight into this method. So I did a sub threshold here, 10k easy, sub threshold here. And what I can say is I do not feel mentally as fatigued as I did after these kinds of sessions. So just a comparison, this Tuesday with this Tuesday. So if we look at this one, I ran at 409, 411, 416, 405, 402, and then the 300s I ran at like 330. I think it must be quite hectic on your body. If we compare that to my first sub-threshold session, here I'm running 417, 420, 417, 413, 417, 413. So it's slower and it's quite even amongst between all 3 of these 3k reps. One thing they do mention in this Norwegian singles is that it's not actually about pace, it's about the effort. So these felt super controlled. My breathing wasn't getting crazy out of control. Yes, you're still working. It is still quite tough. On today's session, because today I also did a SubT session, when I'm doing these crazy sessions like I did previously, all I think about during these reps is how far is it till I have to stop. So here in these 300s, I'm checking my watch thinking when I'm okay, is it 100 meters? No. Is it 50 meters? Will I make it? Just keep pushing, keep pushing. That's what's going through my head. During these sub-T efforts, yes, I do check my watch and I see how far I have to go, but I found myself today on my sub-T sessions mid-rep thinking about shoes. So my mind isn't consumed by having to finish the rep because I'm struggling so much. I'm hoping that this makes me feel better and makes me enjoy running again, because for the last 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, I've been struggling, and I think you guys noticed that in last week's video. I'm still gonna go for sub 3, but you know what, if this change in my training means I won't make it, then so be it, okay? And I hope you guys can respect that. One thing I wanted to show you on this, so I used this website. Just after reading about this on Monday, I went to this website and looked into it. It's called Runalyze. It's a free website. Training Peaks probably does this better, but you have to pay for it. So this one's free. You just link your Garmin or whatever profile to it, and then it analyzes your runs and data and all of that jazz. But what I wanted to show is the CTL. And CTL is chronic training load, and that is a score that is calculated based on, I think it's calculated from over 42 days, but basically it just takes your runs, takes the intensity as well as the duration, and just gives a general trend on your training load. And according to SubT, this Norwegian singles method produces the highest CTL score for the least amount of fatigue. One thing I do want to show is that from, when is this, May to now, my CTL has dropped. Part of that is because I tapered a little bit here for that 10k time trial, but also it's because of the random rest days that I'm taking for myself, as well as because I'm doing these crazy sessions. My other sessions, like my Thursday medium long runs, are slower, and my easy runs are shortened. So as you saw in last week's video, I did a 5.5k run. I shouldn't be doing runs that short at this point in a marathon block. So my chronic training load has been going down, but my fatigue's gone up. If my chronic training load has gone up and my fatigue's gotten worse, that I would understand. But the fact that my chronic training load's going down, so it's getting worse, but my fatigue's carrying on going up, that's a bad sign, I think. Now, I'm not an expert in these things, but just using mathematics and using basic understanding of how graphs work, this is not a good sign. All of that, there's all the sciencey stuff. Let's actually just look at what I've planned going forward. Yeah, I'm following the standard structure, which is 3 sub-threshold sessions in a week, and then an easy long run after that. And some of you are going, but I said that your long runs need to have hard efforts in them. I still believe in that. However, with this structure, I can't do that. But what I can do, and what I have done, is that later on, for example here, I don't do sessions and then I do a crazy hard long run as my last week before the taper. And one thing I once heard, I can't remember where, it was on some podcast, but they said one thing you can do to mimic marathon fatigue in your legs is to have a medium long run the day before a long run, which it just happens to be so that this type of training just mimics that perfectly, because you have a session which ends up still being a decent chunk of volume, and then the next day you have a long run. So you will be doing these long runs on somewhat fatigued legs, but it won't be as fatiguing to your central nervous system and everything. So I'm hoping that gives a good stimulus in terms of marathon training. One thing I must say, how I've adjusted it for marathon training, the first thing is that this session here usually isn't this much volume, but I've done that on purpose to mimic what I've just mentioned, literally. So my third session of the week, I've upped the volume a bit more than the first two sessions. Okay, so that's the first change I've made. So in this last mesocycle, you'll notice that I've started incorporating these red sessions, and these sessions have a slight jump in volume. So instead of just doing, for example, 3 times 3K, now I'm doing 3 times 4K. So that is a slight bump in volume. And I'll also be running those reps slightly faster. Okay, not crazy fast, just more on marathon pace side of things. I don't know if it will work for me, but I have to do something about my mental state, about my fatigue, about my tiredness, and I'm hoping that this is the solution. I'm going to stick by it till the marathon, and if that means I run a 3 hours 10 minutes marathon, it is what it is. Obviously I'll link this thread, and then I will also link this here, which is a place where you can calculate the SubT paces. Oh, I didn't speak about this. This is important. Why didn't I mention this? In this method, oh, this is so important. Thank goodness I went there. In this method, you have 3 of these sessions a week, and they do differ slightly. The one session you want to do longer reps, the one session you want to do shorter reps, and then the one session medium reps. Okay? Okay. Yeah, Baba. Open. Say hello. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Say running.
Running.
Okay, bye. Say bye.
Bye.
For those of you who've been following this journey and you've supported me, I got some nice comments on last week's video. Yeah, thank you. I hope you guys are doing well in your training, and hopefully you're not feeling as fatigued and down as I have been. But things are looking better. Okay, so we'll stay positive. See you in the next video. Cheers.